For 15 years, he was the man everyone trusted, the man with every key. And on one single night, he used all of them to burn the entire system down. They never saw it coming, because for years, he made sure they wouldn't. Savannah Outskirts, Georgia, winter, 1865. A plantation called Black Ridge, and a man named Elias Carter holding a ring of 39 keys. Keys to everything. The main house, the food stores, the weapon vault, every gate, every lock, every way in, and every way out. To them, he was just the custodian, reliable, quiet, invisible. The man who opened doors before sunrise and locked them again after dark. The man who never lost a key, never asked a question, never gave them a reason to doubt him. But what they didn't know was that every key he carried already had a shadow, a second version, hidden, perfect, waiting. 15 years earlier, Elias had arrived at Black Ridge alone, sold south after his wife died. 35 years old, grief still fresh, chains still tighter than ever. But he brought something with him, something no one could see. Knowledge. His father had been a blacksmith, not just shaping iron, but understanding it. Locks, mechanisms, weaknesses, and in stolen hours, he had taught Elias one thing. If you understand the lock, you control the door. So when they placed that ring of keys into his hand, Elias didn't just feel metal. He felt access. And access could become power. The first key he copied was the weapon vault. Not out of desperation, not out of impulse, but because he understood something simple. If you ever planned to break a system, you start with the part that keeps it alive. He waited, watched, learned their patterns. Then one afternoon, when no one was looking, he pressed the key into soft wax. That night, by candlelight, he melted metal in silence. Careful, patient, precise. When the metal cooled, he held it up to the flame. A second key. His first. He tested it the next day. The lock turned. The door opened. And in that moment, Elias Carter realized something dangerous. He didn't just have access anymore. He had control. So he kept going. One key at a time, one risk at a time, year after year after year. By 1855, he had 15. By 1860, 28. And as the plantation grew, so did his collection. Until one day, he wasn't just holding the keys anymore. He was holding a second version of the entire place, hidden. A shadow plantation that only he could unlock. By the time anyone noticed the war, Elias had already been preparing for it, for years. Not with weapons, not with speeches, with silence. Every morning he walked the same path, unlocked the same doors, checked the same locks. To them, it was routine. To him, it was surveillance. He memorized everything, which doors were checked, which ones were forgotten, which gates stuck, which hinges made noise, where the guards walked, when they got lazy, when they drank, when they stopped paying attention. He built 2 maps in his mind. One, the plantation they believed they controlled, and another, the one that could fall apart. But keys alone weren't enough. A door can open, but someone still has to walk through it. So Elias started watching people, carefully, quietly. Not for strength, not for obedience, for something harder to see. Restraint, courage, silence. The ones who didn't talk too much, the ones who didn't break too fast, the ones who knew how to endure without losing themselves. He never asked them directly, never revealed anything. That would get him killed. Instead, he helped. Small things, almost invisible. A little extra food, left where it could be found. A tool, forgotten near the fields. A door, not fully locked. Nothing obvious, nothing traceable, but enough for the right people to notice. And they did. First, Moses, the blacksmith, strong hands, sharp mind. Then, Rachel, working inside the main house, reading words she was never meant to see. Then, Daniel, a field hand who refused to bend, even when it cost him blood. One by one, Elias identified them. Not a group, a network, separated, unaware of each other's full role, but connected through trust. And still, he said nothing. No plan, no promise, just preparation. Because Elias understood something most people didn't. The moment you speak too early, you lose everything. So he waited, and then the war came. 1861, the South broke away. Armies moved, cities braced. But out here, on Black Ridge, nothing changed. The fields were still full, the whips still cracked, the system still held. At least, that's how it looked. But inside the main house, news traveled, and Rachel was listening. Newspapers, letters, conversations whispered over dinner, names, battles, movements. And one night, she brought Elias something different. Not news. The Union is getting closer. They're taking ground. They're not stopping. Elias didn't answer right away, but something shifted. For years, he had been building keys without knowing the door. Now, he could finally see it. Chaos, confusion, a system stretched thin. And in that moment, Elias Carter understood. He wasn't preparing anymore. He was waiting for the exact second when everything would break. Once he saw the moment, Elias stopped waiting. He started building a plan. But not all at once. Not out loud. That would get him killed before it even began. So he broke it apart, piece by piece, person by person. No one would ever see the whole picture, except him. He began with Moses. Not with a confession, not with a plan. With a question. If there was a way to open the weapon vault, would it matter? Moses didn't ask how, didn't ask when. He just said yes. That was enough. Rachel came next. Elias didn't tell her about the keys. He asked something else. If someone had to travel 40 miles without roads, could you guide them? Rachel answered without hesitation. I already can. Daniel was different. No subtlety, no careful phrasing. Elias just needed to know one thing. How many can move fast? How many won't break? Daniel gave him numbers. Strong ones. reliable ones, the kind who don't stop. And just like that, a structure began to form. Not a group, a system. Moses, weapons. Rachel, navigation. Daniel, movement. Each one holding a piece, none of them holding everything. Because Elias understood, if one person breaks, the rest still survives. Over months, then years, he refined it, watching, adjusting, replacing weak links, never rushing. By 1863, he had his number. 71. Not the strongest, not the loudest, the most reliable. But even then, most of them didn't know. Only a small circle, about 15, understood what was coming. The rest? They were waiting, without knowing they were chosen. Then Elias began preparing the ground. Not dramatically, not all at once. Quiet changes. Supplies moved, a little closer to the edge. Wagons left in the wrong place, for the right reason. Locks maintained, so they would open without sound. Gates repaired, not for security, but for escape. Every detail mattered. Every second would matter. Because this wasn't just escape. It had to be clean, fast, untraceable, until it was too late. And all the while, Colonel Harrow watched him, trusted him, praised him, told guests that Elias was proof that loyalty could be earned. Elias listened, nodded, played the role perfectly, because the more they trusted him, the less they saw him. And that blindness was the final piece of the plan. By late 1864, the war was closing in. Union forces moving closer, supply lines breaking, rumors spreading faster than orders. And inside the main house, fear. Real fear. Rachel heard it first, the word evacuation, the possibility that the masters might run. And when she told Elias, everything locked into place. This was it. Not someday, not eventually. Now. For 15 years, he had been collecting keys. For 4 years, he had been building a network. And finally, he had a moment. A system distracted, a structure weakening, a night waiting to be taken. So Elias Carter did the only thing left to do. He chose a date. Elias chose a date. February 17th, 1865. Not because it was perfect. Because it was fragile. The exact moment when everything was just unstable enough to break. But choosing the date was the easy part. Telling 71 people without telling anyone else, that was the real danger. So Elias didn't announce it. He buried it, inside ordinary words, conversations no one would question. The harvest will come early this year. 3 nights from now, we'll be working after dark. To anyone else, it meant nothing. To the ones who understood, it meant everything. The message moved quietly, from Moses to 2 more, from Rachel to another 3, from Daniel into the fields. Never in groups, never repeated twice the same way. Never enough to expose the whole. And still, most of the 71 didn't know. Not yet. They only knew something was coming. The week before felt different. Even the air changed. Elias moved like always. Same steps, same keys, same quiet routine. But inside, everything was accelerating. He checked every lock. Not for security, for silence. Which doors would open clean? Which ones might stick? Which hinges would betray them? He walked the gates, ran his hands across iron and wood, testing, memorizing, preparing. He counted distance, steps between buildings, time between patrols, margins. Because if anything went wrong, it wouldn't fail slowly. It would collapse all at once. Inside the main house, the tension was different, louder. Colonel Harrow spoke in shorter sentences. The overseers stayed armed, even at night. And twice that week, Elias saw something new. Fear. Real fear. Not of the people they controlled, but of something coming for them. That was the sign. The system was cracking. On the final day, everything felt too normal, too quiet. Sunrise, work, orders, routine. Elias moved through it all, unlocking doors, answering requests, nodding when spoken to. Invisible. But beneath it, connections were forming. Eyes meeting. Brief nods. No words. Moses, ready. Rachel, ready. Daniel, ready. Holding their breath. Night came slowly. The sun dropped. The fields emptied. The doors closed. One by one. At 6 o'clock, Elias locked the main house. Same as every night. No hesitation. At 7 o'clock, the last lanterns dimmed. Voices faded. Darkness settled in. At 9:30, Elias sat alone in his room. The official keys hanging where they always did, in plain sight. Useless. Behind the wall, hidden in silence, the real power waited. At 9:45, he reached for it. The loose board slid free. A cloth bag, heavy, full of metal. 46 keys. Every lock, every door, every weakness. He held them for a moment, feeling the weight, not of metal, of 15 years. Then he wrapped the bag tight. No sound, no mistakes. Blew out the candle, and stood. At exactly 10 o'clock, Elias Carter opened his door and stepped into the night. The first target, the weapon vault. Less than a minute away. Everything was about to begin. The lock turned without a sound. Elias didn't rush. He never rushed. That's why he was still alive. The weapon vault opened, dark inside. But he wasn't alone. Moses was already there. And 5 others, waiting. No one spoke. They didn't need to. They had already said everything, in silence. Hands moved in the dark. Rifles, pistols, powder, everything that had been used to control them, now passing into their hands. 15 minutes. That's all it took. Years of power emptied into the night. Elias locked the vault again. No trace. No warning. Next, the food stores. Rachel was already there, lantern covered, light barely visible. Just enough. Barrels opened, sacks lifted. Rice, flour, salted meat. Enough to survive. if they made it out. 2 wagons, loaded fast, no wasted motion, no second chances. 10:40, done. Then the gates, 7 of them, all locked, all useless. One by one, Elias moved through the dark. Key, turn, unlock. Key, turn, unlock. He didn't open them. Not yet. Just remove the barrier. By 10:55, every exit was waiting. In the woods, they gathered. 71 people. No chains. Not yet free, but no longer still. Weapons passed, supplies divided, groups formed. 4 paths, 4 chances. Elias stepped forward. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. This is the moment. No one gets left behind. We move fast. We don't stop. And then he said the part they weren't expecting. I'm not coming with you. Silence. Confusion. But no one argued, because they understood. Someone had to finish it. 11:10. Elias walked back alone, past the trees, past the fields, back into the place that had owned his entire life. Inside the quarters, others still slept, or pretended to, the ones not chosen. Elias locked the doors, from the outside, not as punishment, as protection. In the morning, they would be innocent. Then, the main house. Lights out, family asleep. Safe. For now. Elias stood there, looking at it. All that wealth, all that comfort, built from stolen lives. He reached into his coat. Oil, already prepared. Poured it along the wood, the porch, the walls, the foundation of everything. Then, a spark. Flame caught fast, too fast. Dry wood, cold air. The fire climbed, hungry, spreading from house to barn to storage. Glass shattered, voices rose. Panic. Elias didn't stay. He didn't need to. The system was already burning. He turned and ran. Back to the woods, back to them. They were ready, waiting exactly where he left them. No hesitation now, no more waiting, only movement. The gates opened. One by one, they passed through. Into darkness, into uncertainty, into something they had never had before. A chance. By midnight, they were gone, miles away. Behind them, Black Ridge burned. A signal in the night, not of destruction, of ending. And somewhere in that darkness, 71 people kept moving, not looking back. Because for the first time in their lives, there was nothing left behind, worth returning to. All it took was one man who understood the lock and decided to open everything.